Hello guys, welcome to my channel Science on Tips. So today our topic is self-incompatibility. So before I start explaining what is self-incompatibility, let us try to understand what does the term self-incompatibility means, right? So let us try to understand the term first. So self here indicates the self-pollination and incompatibility means that the self-pollination do not result in the formation of seeds. That is, the self-pollination is incompatible, right? What is the self-pollination? Self-pollination is nothing but it is when the pollen of the same plant falls on the stigma of the same flower and results in the seed formation. That is the self-pollination. And when that process do not work and do not result in the formation of seed, then it is called the self incompatibility. That is, the pollens are functional and the self pollination has also happened, but the seed has not been formed. So that is the self incompatibility, right? So here is a definition of self-incompatibility. Self-incompatibility refers to the inability of the plant with functional pollen to set seeds when self-pollinated. That is, it is the inability of the plant. Plant is not able to set seeds, but it has the functional pollens to set seeds when self pollinated. That कि जब भी सेल्फ पॉलिनेशन होगी प्लांट के पास फंक्शनल पोलन्स भी हैं लेकिन सीड सेटिंग नहीं हो पाएगी. सो इट मीन्स यहाँ पे क्या करनी पड़ेगी, हमें क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन करनी पड़ेगी, तभी सीड सेटिंग हो पाएगी, राइट? So let us see what are the main features of the self-pollination. So the first main feature is that it is an important outbreeding mechanism. So as I have already explained to you that the self-pollination do not result in the formation of seed in case of self incompatibility. So it means inbreeding cannot happen, right? So of course if the self pollination is not working, so for the seed setting there is the cross pollination, right? And cross pollination is an outbreeding mechanism, so it is an important outbreeding mechanism, and it also promotes the cross pollination. And the third is it maintains the heterozygosity. So what does heterozygosity means? Heterozygosity means when the cell has the two different alleles. For example, one allele is dominant and the another allele is recessive. So this is the heterozygous, right? And if the cell has two same alleles, like if both the alleles are dominant or both the alleles are small, like means both the alleles are recessive, then it is known as the homozygous. So next we have the systems of self-incompatibility. There are two systems of self-incompatibility. So the first system that we are going to study is heteromorphic system. So let us try to understand the term first. So what does the heteromorphic system means? So hetero means differences, not same, right? And morphic here indicates the morphology of the plant. So heteromorphic system is always associated with the differences in the morphology of a plant. So it is associated with the differences in floral morphology. So morphology here basically includes the length of styles and stamen. So what is style and stamen? This is very easy, you know. So what is style? So here this is the carpel in a plant, right? In a flower. So this part is style, and this is the stamens. Here these are the stamens, right? So these are the stamens. So on the basis of the length of the style and the stamen, this system works. So there are two types. One is Distyly, that is two type of styles, and the another one is Tristyly, that there are three type of styles. So two type of styles, that is the style may be long or a short. For example, there is a one flower. Let me give you an example. So this is one flower, this is the another flower, right? For example, in the first flower, right, styles are of two types. Style means style may be short. For example, this is the flower and this is the carpel of the flower, right? That is the style is short, and this is the another flower and this is the carpel of the another flower. So what is the difference you can see over here? So it is clearly visible that in the first flower the length of the style is very short, right, and in the another flower the length of the style is so long. So this is the difference, that is the two type of styles exist, that is the short and the long. So this is the Distyly, and the second one is Tristyly, that is there are three type of style, one is short, another one is long, and third one is medium. So next, let us try to understand the Distyly first. So it includes two type of flowers, right? Pin type and thrum type. So pin type of flowers are those. I have already given you an example with the diagram, but let us try to understand it with more detail, right? So the first is pin type of flowers. So pin type of flowers are those flowers where the style is longer than the stamens, means the length of the style is long if we compare it with its stamens. And here the example is also given, that is the pomegranate. And the another type of flower which comes under the Distyly is, here such plants possesses the flower with the short style, that is the style length is short and the stamens are longer. Let me also show you a diagram, a picture. So in the first, here the length of the style, right, in the carpel is long. So this part is long, right? And as compared to this, these stamens are short. So these type of flowers are pin type of flowers. And in the another diagram, you can see the length of the stamen is so long as compared to the style, right? So these type of flowers are known as thrum flowers. So how the plant decides that when it has to produce the thrum type of flower or when it has to produce the pin type of flower? So it is based upon the genotype of the cell, basically the genotype, right? So how the pin and thrum type of flowers are produced? So here you can clearly see this is the pin type of flower, this is the thrum type of flower, and pin type of flowers are produced when the genotype is smallest, that is when the genotype have both the alleles recessive. And on the other hand, thrum type of flowers are produced only when the one allele is dominant, that is capital S, and the another allele is recessive, that is the small s, then the thrum type of flowers are produced, right? So it should be kept in your mind. Then when both the alleles are recessive, then the pin type of flowers are produced, and on the other hand, if one allele is dominant and the another one is recessive, then the thrum type of flowers are produced. So it was very easy. So here let us understand what this diagram wants to tell us, right? So it comes under the heteromorphic system only. So let us understand the first diagram. This is the gametophytic system which comes under the heteromorphic system, right? So the first diagram here is shown the fully incompatible mating, that is the type of mating which is fully incompatible. Not a single seed is produced, it is completely incompatible. So what it wants to tell us, right? So here if you can see, these are the pollens, and we can see the genotype of the first pollen is S1 and the another pollen is S2. And if we see the genotype of the carpel, right, so it is S1 and S2. So it clearly tells us that the pollens and the stamens belongs to the same plant, because the genotype of both is same. So these are produced on the same plant, means these pollens are produced on the same plant on which this flower is present. So it means self, that is here self pollination हुई है, right? So self pollination हुई है, तो ये fully incompatible है because these pollens have very small pollen tubes, and here the male gamete is not able to reach the ovules, and therefore the seed setting may not happen. And in the second diagram we can see one pollen is S1, that is it is produced on the same plant because the genotype is S1 and S2, and the another pollen has the genotype S3, right? So S3 means this pollen has come from the different plant, so it is the cross pollination. So here it is the partial incompatibility, that 50% of the pollens have come from the another plants, and the 50% of the pollens are from the same plant. So when the self pollination will happen, then they will be incompatible, there will not be any seed setting. But when there is a cross pollination, then the seed setting takes place. And if we talk about the third one, that is the fully compatible mating. Here both of the pollens have came from the different plants, that is their genotype is S3 and S4, and the plant is S1 and S2. So therefore the pollen tubes grow and the male gamete reaches the ovaries, and then fully compatible mating. So let us talk about the another type of system of self-incompatibility, that is homomorphic system. So homomorphic means, homo means same, morphing means morphology. So here the morphology is the same of the flower, right? This system do not result due to the differences in the morphology of a flower, like as we have discussed in the previous slides, that the heteromorphic system was a result of the differences in the floral morphology, right? So in this system, self incompatibility results due to the physiological causes rather than the differences in the floral morphology. So there are not the differences between the floral morphology, but there are the physiological causes due to which this system is working, right? So what are the physiological causes? Physiological causes is, as you know, right, how the pollination takes place. So pollens comes, right? For example, let me give you an example. For example, this is the pollen, right? And this is the carpel of the flower on which it has to land and pollinate. So first of all, it will come on the stigma. So first it will fix itself on the surface of the stigma, then it will absorb some of the water, then it will try to then it will make a pollen tube, and then the male gamete will enter in the ovaries. So if this whole system do not works, right? For example, the first, that is the pollen grain is not it has not succeeded in landing on the stigma, the then the self pollination will not take place, right? And if it do not germinate on the stigma, then also, and if the male gamete, if the pollen tubes do not forms, then it also results in not it do not result in seed setting. And if the pollen tube is growing well, but the male gamete is very slowly, going inside the style, then till it will reach the ovule, the ovules will degenerate. That is, these all are the physiological causes that will ultimately leads to leads to not seed setting, means seed setting will not take place, right? That will ultimately ruin all the system. So types. So the homomorphic system is of basically two types, right? The first is the metaphytic system, and the another one is sporophytic system. So it is very simple. The metaphytic system, that is when the homomorphic system depends on the genotype of the pollen itself, means when it is governed by the genotype of the pollen, right, that was traveling. So when the genotype of the pollen works, so that is the gametophytic system. And when the genotype of the plant on which the pollen is produced, right, that is more important, then it is known as sporophytic system. So this was all about the video. Thanks for watching it. Please subscribe to my channel Science on Tips, and for your queries please comment down and also suggest what video you want next. Thank you.